Hello, everyone. So we're at week four. We have a group discussion. It's me, Nazmul, and Vishal. Hey, Vishal.
Hello, how are you doing, Nazma?
Good, good. Thanks. So our topic will be the problem of gathering secondary data in foreign markets. We chose this one out of other five topics. So let's get started. So first, the point I want to mention the source bias. So when you do research in foreign market, researchers have to be aware of vested interest when they consult secondary sources. Those responsible for their compilation may have reason for wishing to present a more optimistic or pessimistic set of result for their organization. So there is a common, or it's easy to be biased to get information from those sources. So researchers have to be aware of vested interest when they consult secondary sources, especially in foreign market. Those responsible for their um, uh, so and also the new news organization do news gathering in whom they chose to talk, such as if you are not familiar with the culture and all those political and demographic, it's easy to get it's hard to choose people and right sources um, for a neutral data as we choose for secondary sources. And the second point, it comes to reliability, which is also kind of highly related with the first point. But the reliability of published statistics may vary over time because as a as for secondary information, we often rely on the statistics. So yeah, you have to be careful about the reliability. And also, it's not uncommon, for example, for the system of collecting data to have changed over time, but without any indication of this to the reader of published statistics. Then geographical or administrative boundaries may be changed by government, or the basis for sterifying a sample may have altered. So the statistics can be biased. So you need to choose the most updated and up-to-date statistic based on political and government rules and etiquettes. Other aspect of research methodology is that the reliability of secondary data is the sample size. Then also we can say the response rate and the questionnaire design, modes of analysis. So yeah, those are the things that need to be careful about. Then lastly, I would say the time scale. Most census, because as a secondary sources, we often choose census, and most census takes place at 10 years intervals. So data from these and other published source may be outdated at the time the researcher want to make use of statistics. Secondary source can be updated regularly, but if you are exploring the data between two updates, the data can be out of date. So the researchers will need to consider whether the data availability provides the right resources and uh, coverage date, so the insights are accurate and timely. And obviously, various other things like cultural differences and unfamiliar with the foreign market and market demographic, those matters in the secondary data, and this might occur such problem. And also, if the data needs to be updated, and fast moving market may find secondary data expire very quickly, as we know, Because let's say if we do market research, market are changing constantly, and so it changes very quickly, the market. So it's that data needs to be most recent, taken most recent time. That's when we get the correct result and apply to the real business for the solution of whatever the problem and whatever the objectives of that research is. So yeah, here I get done with that, and I'll ask Vishal to explain some of the other points which researchers face when doing research in foreign market in case of secondary data. Thank you.
Thank you, Nazmul. And you mentioned a few very important, very critical points, especially when you talk about out of data which is very further beyond in comprehension of it's out of date, and also it's not really very recent data. And especially with data, the most important thing that is that it keeps changing, it keeps evolving, and that is very important to make sure that we have access to the most recent data to get the most recent analysis and descriptions of what we are trying to achieve. So also one more thing I would like to discuss is cultural diversities, because especially when we're dealing within two different countries, we are dealing in two different cultural aspects. We're dealing in two different multiple activities and multiple aspects of collecting data within two different cultures. And that is one of the important hurdles that we need to overcome when we need to understand or we need to comprehend how important it is to include all this diversified data between two different countries, whether it's primary data or secondary data. Also, extensive diversification aspects between the two different environments, because even if though it could be two similar cultures in two different countries and two different workplaces, but it could be two different environments even within that culture. And that is really important to understand that when we are collecting data from one place and transferring to the other place. So, for example, if we are collecting a data within totally different two different environments, they will give two different results in two different circumstances, and that is really important understanding that. And when we are talking about transferring of secondary data within two different countries, cultural diversities play a very important, very critical, and a vital role. Talking about the effective transfer of information, that is very important, because the effective transfer of information is rendered in a way that it goes through multiple different channels, multiple different frequencies, and it goes through it filters itself to hold most of the data that was left from the primary location and was received in the final destination. So what happens when we are talking about incorporating data into two different countries is that some part of the data would be lost within the transfer. And this information which is lost could be the most critical part of the information that was supposed to be transferred when we're talking about the data transfer and data analysis and information rendering. So when we're talking about two different cultural environments, two different parts of were transferring data to each other, the losing of information can occur. And this is very important aspect to focus on, because that could actually lead to two different results. One result could be which had the complete information. One could be completely different result because it was missing a critical part, little small but critical part of the information. Now, confirmative ideas can be exchanged, because also when we're transferring data within two different countries, secondary data, it could generate two different ideas. Idea A could be different from idea B, and that is when conflict of ideas could occur as well. So to minimize this conflict, what needs to be done is there needs to have a similar ground, which needs to understand that this is the vision, this is the mission statement and the vision statement of the company, and as together we are working towards this mission. And that will give these two ideas, idea A and idea B, to work together, aiming towards that similar mission or vision statement. Now we'll talk about the legal aspect. That is one more critical area we need to touch it, because multiple legal aspects could be related to transfer of data, whether it is digital data, whether it is written data, maybe it's kind of data that is send in terms of data transfer files, but legalities related to transfer of this data exchange is really important because this data is not just critical in terms of a company's position, company's well-being, and a company's future aspect, but it's also important to make sure that all this data that is being transferred concords to all the legalities within the two different countries. So the legal aspect is one of the such an important aspect that companies focus on. They have their multiple channels of lawyers and specialists that focus on the legal aspects, so that when they are doing business between two countries, they are safe, sound, and they're protected based on the legalities. So this not just this, but also important one more really important thing is that the compatibility and the available data within the two countries, especially in the lesser developed countries, in terms of it, could be present many years out of date and could be having more collected and infrequent and unpredictable schedule as well. So what that means is little to basically negligible historical data could be available when we're talking about a country which is which is a developing country. So in this kind of situation, secondary data source in any of these countries, including the countries that are developed, it needs to be carefully analyzed. So this needs to be done because the misrepresentation of this data should not occur. And as they say that incomplete and misrepresented data is more dangerous than no data at all. So data needs to be corrected, data needs to be analyzed, data needs to be scrutinized, and then used in terms of making corporate decisions for the company's future.
Awesome. Thank you so much. So yeah, I think that completes our this week's assignment. So yeah, I'll just stop recording and
thank you so much, Doctor, for giving us this opportunity to present our
thank you so
views.
much. Thank you.
And thank you, Nazmo, for helping so much in this presentation.
Okay. How do I stop recording?
On the top, says view option.
Yeah. There it is.